It's that time. The Brightside Chronicles is about to go down with Carrie and Nana. You ready for the show to begin?
Hey, let's go. Let's get it. It's almost showtime. Let's go. Let's get it. It's almost go time. Let's freaking go.
What is poppin', everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of the Brightside Chronicles, and I am here with my I don't even know. Extra guest, AM Arctos, also known as Alexander. And then I have an amazing, incredible soul that Nana and I are both just super honored and privileged to have, Dr. Calvin Mann. Oh, and
Ooh,
I got my original co-host joining as we speak.
here he comes.
Yo!
Yay.
I love it. So, for the listening audience, this is the Brightside Chronicles. Nana and I feel really strongly that in a climate of fear and negativity, division and separation, it is our responsibility to highlight people who are really truly showing up in love and joy and challenging the status quo. And I can truly say, from having known Calvin for, oh my gosh, like 3 years now, Calvin is somebody who does things differently, who is a creative, who is not willing to stand for injustice. That's for damn sure. But he does it in a way that does bring joy. So, Calvin, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yay!
Ah! All right. So, Nana, you have anything you want to add before we just dive into joy?
I mean, I'm just excited to be on here because I was like kind of sweating a little bit. I was like, yo, I can't be on my own show that I want to be on. Like, I was like, nah, this can't be it. I just got to will it to happen. And it said join stream when I clicked back into it. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I want to be a part of this. So I'm excited for this. I look forward to this today. So I need it.
I love it. And Alexander, thank you so much for being a surprise guest.
I figured to pop in.
So, Calvin, joy. How does joy influence the way in which you show up in the world every day?
For me, it's purpose. Once you lock into your why, and you put pen to and pencil to paper, and you write out, the different things you'd like to do, because this vision has come a long way, and you just. I was speaking today, and I told him, I was like, you write your convictions in ink, and you write your plans in pencil, and every time you accomplish a goal, you rewrite that next goal and move up. And it's I'm really excited because honestly, I was supposed to fail, right? Because you start something, a purpose, and you wake up one day and you say, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I start going at it, and I was in a position where I shouldn't have did it, but I did it anyway.
Nice.
So, what was that drive? What was the drive for you to continue to persevere despite the fact that people saw, you as not somebody who's going to be successful?
Well, it wasn't that they didn't see, as successful. A lot of people, there was some encouragement, there was some rejection, that's throughout it all. But when I got it, right, the position was, hey, you can really make a difference with this one simple message.
Nice.
And because of that, when I didn't think it was purpose, God circled me right back into purpose. And so I started being concerned of why kids were getting killed. So I started with one T-shirt and one quote. And in that process, bringing hope to families became something. And then one thing led to another. Somebody gave me a nonprofit You know, and it changed my life, and it put me in a position to be a writer and a speaker and an author, and you know, that was none of those things. Where I was just passionate about, you know, offering hope to families and getting these kids out the way because I had a skill set.
Mm.
Hmm.
So what do you do for yourself? So I get that you know, you said that joy is having a purpose, but what do you do to have fun? Because like I've seen some of your work and I know you be having fun. So share with the listening audience how you merge the messages that are really important to you while tapping into that creative energy that you have.
So recently, I got tired of the, you know, there's so many obstacles, you know, with the nonprofit. I got this, you know, apparel, and so in 2023, I'm trying to work. So you know what, I'm gonna just go with this apparel, right? It's been in 7 countries. I've worked. It's been, you know, on these different things. Ron's House, NFL Network. I said, you know what? I think it's time to take the message to everybody. Let everybody get a piece of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that the message was good, right? Because if I could show you, like, there are 300 quotes. Then there's right. Then there's, you know, I even launched a cursive writing book, right? Why?
I love
What? I feel
that.
like that's like a lost art, isn't that?
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
So the cursive
amazing.
writing book is cognitive. So I discovered through studying the brain that cursive writing was for the brain. So
You
Interesting.
know
when
what
I
I
do
love
this,
about that? There's two things. 2 days ago, I wrote both of my daughters a letter, and I have to write. I don't even
It's
know
like French. Yeah.
non-cursive because, and then I was
Non-cursive.
believe it or not, I was in the shower and I'm like, I really love writing in cursive. Plus, it's way less work because you're just bubbling. I'm like, people need to learn how to write in cursive.
well, they took it out in 2010, but it's like this cursive writing book, it all has everything for the brain. So
Mm.
there are only positive words, there are only
Nice.
positive paragraphs,
Yeah.
right? And affirmations in there. So as they're writing, they're getting this information into their system. So that's another joy point for me. The apparel is really a joy point because a lot of the messages early on that people, like, I'll read you a few quotes that
Yeah.
people the joy, I'm telling you, how the people didn't, you know, you say this thing and people like, oh, they didn't quite get it, that type of thing,
Got you.
right? And then you say, okay, you say it another way. They're like, ah, right? So then, because the wife always catches them coming out my mouth.
Wifey.
Nice.
Yo.
Yeah. So here are a couple. This is from uh, a number. Okay, so this one is, I always use them. Smile, you're blessed.
Mm.
If you love me, do better. Common courtesy makes love authentic. I'm sure you love that one.
Ooh.
Them smiles, them
I gotta
pleases.
jot some of these things down, bro.
That's
I need
fun.
to use some of these lines.
And you got these on clothing and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm yeah, that it's gonna
Awesome.
be on clothing. Like a lot of
What?
these I have not put out yet.
Ooh.
Right? What what good is a gift if you're not using it as a gift?
Mm.
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 Right? I put this one out. Your mouth gives life, so breathe.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, you know what? So I really want to jump in here. There's a couple things for the
Yes.
listening audience. What
Yes.
I love so much about your cursive book is we either speak life into ourselves or death based on what we say. And the
Mm.
fact that you intentionally speak life into people while they are learning a cognitive skill that grows white matter in their brain is super
Mhm.
profound. And I love that. And for the listening audience, Calvin is from Detroit. So he has
I'm not Detroit.
I mean, you
Good
have
place.
witnessed a lot of segregation, separation, disconnection. And rather than just kind of putting up your hands in apathy, you used your skill in screen press, right? Because if I remember correctly from our story, and I love this so much, you started learning how to do screen work on T-shirts in a printing shop, and then use that to help families who had lost a loved one to gun violence, right?
Yeah, so that's how Emmy Apparel started. Um, and it really originated when I was coaching high school basketball as well. That's when I was given. And then in 2004, you know, I took one quote, "Time is all we have to change what we are," and I printed the first shirt while volunteering at a print shop.
Yep,
Cool.
I love that.
So um, from there, I was selling them out of trunk, and the mom asked me to help her, and I got this nonprofit. But like I said, if we are still going on joy, right?
Yeah.
Always joy, baby.
So
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to help every nationality over my 40 years. I've
Beautiful.
had Asians, whites, Arabs, Jews.
Yeah.
Like I've had in through coaching, relationships. The reason why I was telling you about the diversity piece is because it's because we deserve the right to come together and
Mm.
say that we
Yeah.
don't want the life to live a life like we're seeing. We've answered this before, like you said, 300 years ago.
Correct.
So, in other words, diversity makes the most money. Diversity has more families. Like I can go on and on about this
Yeah.
diversity thing, right?
Well, you
But
should. And I would love to hear more about your vision for that. But, you know, the thing about so when I think about diversity, I think about coming together in music. I think about coming together in dance. I think about coming together in creative endeavors, which you've done. You actually sent me a video that I believe your son helped you produce. And yeah, like Calvin's super creative in and focusing on what makes us one rather than the minuscule things that are perceived differences, like the color of our skin, or even what ideology we practice in religion. Because at the end of the day, if you're really tapped into something greater than you, that thing greater is love, wouldn't you say?
so yeah, you could easily say that. I'm saying intentional. Love is intentional as well.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
So when I'm saying diversity, I mean the people, not necessarily their skin, not necessarily because I just highlighted that for people to understand there's a difference. When I look into my family, there is diversity for
Yeah.
centuries,
Yes.
right? Goes back centuries, right? I have all types of nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, but that was from, as you would use the word, love, right? Because majority of the people in our family been married, so we get married in my family, we get
Mm.
married, have families,
Mhm.
we this is a tradition for us, praying, loving the Lord, becoming pastors and community driven. This is a norm in our family, right? Coaches, college coaches, athletes, these things are normal in our family, right? But the for me, it's always been people for some strange reason in my life. I can't walk into a grocery store. You understand? Like
Yeah.
when I walk into a grocery store, it lights up, and so
Hmm.
people are willing to talk to me
Yep.
as I'm walking through the grocery store. They're looking. They don't know me from a can of paint, and next thing you know,
Nice.
we're in a full blown conversation just off of hello, hey, how you doing? How they treating you?
Yes. Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
so a general conversation, like that's why I was saying about common courtesy, right? Just a general conversation. You never know whose life you're gonna save. You never know who you're gonna impact.
Mm.
You never. I was in Washington
Mm.
D.C. I was headed into a conference, and it was a lady sitting on just sitting on the steps. And as I was coming up, she was looking. I said, "Hey, how you doing, baby?" And she said, "Oh, I'm fine." I said, "You sure is. You all right? Everything
Hmm.
okay?" That's all I did. She started crying.
Oh,
Oh, what?
She said, "I
beautiful.
needed that."
It's true.
It's true. It's what this is why I've been preaching to my nieces and nephews about cutting off the TV,
Mm.
cutting off right, cutting off the some of this media. Give
Social.
yourself a
Makes
break.
sense.
It seemed like once you go outside of this media, people are like normal. They don't get to hide behind the computer and play these
Mhm.
games and
Mhm.
things like that. There are people. And the other part, here's another joy for you, right? Is I believe that I'm already in the midst of starting other things, right? So my boys matter complex, my fatherhood piece, like these are things that is already in motion. So when people finally catch up, it's things that's already in motion. My apparel is in a for profit. I'm a co-partner with a couple of people on some other things, professional gear. But my apparel is getting ready. Like I'm getting ready to pitch to a funder. Like so,
Cool.
in that process,
Woo!
in that process, mm, right? These messages warn. I've seen people who for real, wear my gear. I've seen just from a T-shirt how it changed them. I
Cool.
seen,
Mm.
I've seen. One of my guys went in the hospital. I hadn't seen him in a long time. I had been trying to get to him, and so when he had got out, I finally saw him. I handed him a shirt,
Hmm.
right, uh,
Yeah.
and it had one of my quotes on it, right,
Hmm.
and so he ended up going back into the hospital, right,
Yeah.
and I put the link for the store in the chat. He ended up going to the hospital, right, and put the shirt. He told me the story. He put the shirt on the chair,
Oh,
and he
what?
said, "Yeah." He said every day I rolled over and I asked God, "What are you saying to me?"
Nice.
Woo!
So I want to
Woo!
jump in here real quick, and please, Alexander and
Yeah.
Nana, if you have
Yeah. Yeah.
something to say,
Yeah, we
please,
will.
I got you. I got you.
But I always got something to say.
No, you good. You good.
Calvin, something that I love is that you put it on shirts. And why is that important? So, I work with people who are really steeped in mental health issues and that narrative of suffering. And I realized, and I truly believe this, without even knowing it, I tattooed words of affirmation on my arms when I was young. To
Yep.
thine own self be true. Feel the fear. Do it
Hmm.
anyway. She's mad, but she's magic. There's no lion or fire. Like I put scripture on my arms, and because it was a visual, I
Hmm.
was impressing upon myself over and over my ability to show up and be seen as myself
Mm.
because I had those visuals. So I love that
Cool.
you were creating visuals, not through just your apparel, but also through the book, because what we feed our mind matters. And you telling people or encouraging them to take a break from the TV, take a break from social, which is feeding us a lot of fear-based narrative and keeping us believing we're separate,
Yep.
is it has huge implications on how people really start to change and experience life in a more positive way.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see the private chat?
Did I? No, not yet.
Okay,
Your link?
the link is in there. Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
Nice. I'll check this out.
so think about this, right? Think about this right here. right? Everybody is supposed to fail, learn, become resilient, get back up.
Mm.
Everybody is supposed to um, do so many things the right way, but it is from the wrong way that you learn to do the right way,
Mm.
Yeah.
right? And so when I this is another joy for me, right? The reason why I exclusively work with the boys, the men, the husbands, and the fathers is because they are the protectors. And when they are not properly guided and shown, they become the rapists, the murderers,
Yeah.
Mm.
the gun toters, the mass shooters, the drive-bys, the abuse. They become when they don't have the proper information.
Guidance.
When we unbalance a man, we create more criminals than we're willing to admit.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on men feeling emotion, Calvin?
That you have to share it.
Thank you. Like, I just
Yes.
don't get it,
Oh
Awesome.
my
especially
gosh, yo.
I just don't get how there's still such a pervasive narrative that men can't cry or whatever. And I'm like, what? Then you wonder why they're gun toting and losing their marbles. I'm like, if they could just express themselves in the moment, then it's not becoming pent up so that they finally like lose it in a road rage situation and pop off and truly make a mistake that has implications that put them behind bars and stuff. But the reality is it is preventable when we change the narrative of how a man needs to show up in this world. I truly believe
Yeah.
And I love that you brought that up because that was like earlier when I texted you, babe. I was like, yo, I've been having one of those weird days where like I felt like things were supposed to go smooth and they weren't. So I was a little cranky early in the day, actually, believe it or not. But I remember texting you and I was like, look, this was going on. Don't want to shelve that energy towards your way or whatnot. But I was like, just voiced out my opinion, and it helped out because it reset me in the sense of like just like, hey, look,
Yeah.
I'm cranky in this moment, but I'm gonna reset. And then I just left work, left it all behind. I said, okay, whatever happened to work, I have things that I'm looking forward to this weekend. I have some cool, events to attend. I'm going to be away from, work and all that stuff so I can reset my mind. But I was actually really excited for this. That's always kind of like,
Nice.
nah, there's no way I'm not getting on here somehow,
yeah,
some way.
I'm like, I need to get Calvin and Nan in the room together. I'm like, I
Yeah,
have so
right.
much respect for both of you men and the
Yeah.
way in which you show up in the world. Because I think, again, we are talking about perception, but to Calvin's point, we're talking offline, about a lot of the fear and the pervasive hate that is being perpetuated. But you two gentlemen, and you, Alexander, but are changing that narrative with just the embodiment of love that you showcase in this world as who you are. Like Calvin saying, yeah, you are looking fine, baby. How are you? Because that's just who you are, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. It seems the key here is like you're helping people to feel connected and to feel those connections. I
Yeah,
think like
because
with a lot of these dudes, like the angry incel kind of dudes you're talking about before, like they feel disconnected and separate and isolated, and so they can easily be manipulated by bad
Mm.
politicians or
you
others.
you have to remember studies have shown when the father is not present while the child is in the womb, as soon as the child is exit the womb, damage begins.
Mm.
Damn.
That's a very powerful thing, and it really highly affects the males, right? Because the male is looking or listening for that for which it sounds like him. And when we in this country, we decided to make fun of fathers, not listen to fathers, right? Pulls fathers away from the children, separate fathers, parental alienation. We decided to kick boys out of daycares, 14 times likely to be kicked out of daycare. We decided that education was only for girls. We decided that a boy couldn't go get and find a male teacher. We decided that it was okay to be a predator in schools and things like that, and all while damaging the male. And in return, what happened was the male begins to damage everything else. And
Gotcha.
when the male turns to damage the thing, when you don't invest in the male, you're investing in the violence, in the brokenness, in the abuse, in the murder suicides, and you're investing in that because the male has to have balance. That's what faith do for males. That's why males are able to go in this faith area, right? When you see the stuff you see now, and they talking about I'm Christian and I'm all of these things, it's not balanced. Faith allows you to have balance. And when you have balance, you're able to flow very easily into purpose, creation, talent, those types of things that I truly believe that that's what they literally want to stop. They don't want us to use our talents to solve problems. They want to turn people into worker bees and things like that. When the truth of the matter is, nothing in this world is created without balance.
Oof. Oof. I mean, going to that point of balance wise is like there's always the good with the bad per se, right? And I always use the analogy of like, if somebody's at a hospital and you see the little EKG machine going up and down, you're gonna have ups and downs in life. If it's flat line, you're literally like you're not alive. You know what I mean? Like so like I always tell people like you have to almost take the bad with the good. Ideally, obviously you want more good than bad, but like sometimes those are the challenging moments that will actually steer you towards the path that you're trying to get to or that you're trying to, aim for. So I think it's really great that you brought the whole balance thing. Because I think too many times I think we expect everything to be good, good, good. Like even with myself, I'm very stubborn to the fact that like if I did everything right, why did it not go accordingly? You know what I mean?
Right.
But something that happens that throws it off, and I'm just like, man, like I did everything that I could. Like perfect example. Like I said, I'm heading out for the weekend. I have everything to my knowledge, everything all situated to make it a lot smoother. But I always just make sure I keep myself some slack. I know that there's going to be some anomaly of like a customer comes in out of nowhere and I'm not there. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, you're going to have to hold it down for me. And thankfully, my staff is really good with that stuff. But like, that's the stuff that you can't control. I can control that I set everything up to the best of my abilities. But the rest that happens while I'm not there is out of my control. So.
I want to jump in on two key points that I really want to drill down, and hopefully the listening audience has something they want to offer as insight too. But one, Calvin, you said love is a choice, and it is a moment by moment choice, and that is 100% true. You and I are so aligned in that, right? Because the reality is I am operating from an ego. There's a part of me that is driven by this fear, this ideology of separateness. But when I am aware of a thought that comes up that feeds that ego, that feeds that fear, that feeds that, oh my God, Calvin and I have different points of view, so I have to be right. And I choose to, instead of leaning into, oh, this is my position and I dig in, to tell me more about that, Calvin. What can I learn? How can I see you and I as united rather than divided because we see nuances differently?
Yeah.
That's a moment by moment choice, and I really love that. The second thing, Calvin, you said that I love is that and we'll use your male analogy because you work with men, and I was sharing with Alexander earlier, one of Calvin's passions is working with brown and black boys because the suicide rate is much higher. They're more likely to be prescribed ADHD medication, or to his point, kicked out of schools because they're out of control. But when there is that whether it's a father or a father figure or even somebody who can bear witness to an individual make mistakes, but rather than tear them down, tell them they're a horrible person, beat them up, lift them up and say, hey, I understand you made this choice. What was the reasoning behind that? Here are some other options. It doesn't mean you're bad or good. This was just what you know. That is going to create, in my opinion, the balance that we're looking for to create a diverse world of inclusivity. Correct. And not that rubber stamp saying, oh, we have the black person and the Alaskan person. No, it's the person who comes from the South, who grew up in the cornfields, has his equal say and is respected as a person who came from Africa, who has a different perspective but equal say. That to me is inclusivity, and that to me is true diversity.
Yeah, but you have a certain amount of, you got a skill set for that,
Yeah,
right? Society struggles in the skill set because money have become their god.
yeah, you're
See,
right.
when money becomes your god, you're willing to do anything. So
Yeah, it's an addiction.
if you're able to have the perceptiveness that you have to have a conversation, I spoke at an elementary and I was teaching them engagement. These were third and these were kindergartens, right? It was a preschool, kindergarten. It was hilarious because I'm like, I had no clue that I'm supposed to come here, and talk to these young kids. I'm at the elementary. I'm thinking I'm talking to the older kids. So I was teaching the kids engagement, right?
Mhm.
And what does engagement look like, right? That whole process is exactly what you was just explaining. If I can recognize a person outside of the identity that the media gave me,
Yep.
I can then build authentic relationships. When the problem is that I keep seeing the person that the media gave me.
Yeah.
So that's why you have these narratives of separation because this is what the media gave you. Now, when we cut it off,
Mhm.
and as I was getting out the car yesterday, the lady looked right at me and I said, "How you doing? How's it going?" And I'm walking in the store
Nice.
and she says, "Oh, I'm fine. How you doing?" And I said, "Oh." And she started laughing. She said, "Was that bad?" I said, "Yeah." She like, "I'm about to go home and get and throw my feet up and relax. I just got off of work." I said, "Go get them." Right? It's authentic behavior that is really missing. We got too many mask marvels,
Ooh,
right? We have too many
Yeah.
of them. Where we have too many, and it's to be honest with you, it's just real. Like, um, I like my woman don't wear no makeup. You know what I mean? So that's what I look for.
Nice.
You see, that's what I require, right? I know what I like, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we have this perception that everybody is supposed to look like this person,
yep.
and everybody is supposed to go after money the same way, and everybody is supposed to be the same type of father. Everybody is supposed to be the same type of mother, right? So we have these things that we have to move away. So the engagement piece with the kids
Yeah.
was such a powerful piece because, okay, now tell me about you. And so now the kids are just talking and the people are looking and I'm going, yeah, what's your name? And tell me your name and then what you'd like to be, right? These are 4-year olds, right? And the room is lit.
Of course, the energy is
Nice.
probably popping off because the
The room
excitement.
is lit. We're in full blown conversation.
Yeah.
And it's and so we are working on a narrative that we want to teach what we do to schools all over the country,
Yeah.
education facilities, businesses, hospitals, everything. We want to teach you our way. It's called the Emmy way. We want to teach you our way of navigating spaces with people, humanity,
Mm.
right? Because it's such an important piece. If you take away the titles, damn, I'm still a human.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I
Nice.
just
I'm
so
just in awe. So like, that's all. That's all. You're good. You're good.
Yeah,
no,
some good stuff there.
but
Definitely.
but it's so. I mean, oh, see, this is why I love you, Calvin, because we are in such alignment. We say it differently, but labels separate and divide. This idea that you come from affluence and you come from the ghetto or whatever, right? When really, I have had some of the greatest conversations with people who are homeless on the street. And just today, I was asked to bear witness to what's called the senior capstone presentations, and their seniors who have to do a portrait of a senior and talk about their 4 years and the key pillars that they learned, core values and stuff.
Yeah.
And what I was reminded of, and this truly comes back to joy. You know what brings me joy?
Well,
Connection and conversation. Good conversation. Even if I sit here and disagree with you, Alexander or Calvin, we can do it from a place of love and curiosity rather than up, nope, you're not my person. And that gets my juices flowing. And I feel so seen. And I hopefully make other people feel seen as well by engaging and by being open to hearing other people's stories without this preconceived notion of right, wrong, good, bad, you know, enough, not enough, whatever.
Yeah, and if you're like engaging with people authentically with their real selves and your real self, you're not going according to that message the media gave you about them with all the stereotypes, like words like the racist stuff and wokeness or whatever. And, because the media is just controlled by those guys you were talking about that worship money as a god.
Yeah.
And so do you really
Yeah.
want to hear what they have to program you with, or do you want to feel your own legit point of view?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole piece about our brand. Because it talks to you, right? When you put on my t-shirt, it talks to you, right? So as I'm approaching you, you look at the shirt, it's telling you, encourage me, I'm young.
Mm-hmm.
Then as you walk by, you might see a scandalous quote like, man cannot stand alone in his victory. You know, you like, where is that at, right? And so the that's what I wanted to get, because once like it hit Ghana, I'm telling you, the message has hit Ghana, and I was like, I recently did a whole fatherhood conference in Kenya on Zoom. And so when you realize that the message is spreading, right? You want more people to feel, because in every child, every adult, right? This is why we're calling it athleisure. And every adult, there's a kid that didn't get encouraged. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, you nailed it. I mean, that is the whole premise of shadow work or whatever, all of these new age ideologies of healing. But you're 100% right, is
Yeah.
every single individual who is
Yeah.
struggling with addiction, mental health issues,
All that.
separation. By the way, Kenya has a huge rate of alcoholism, but that's besides. Um, it is a child who was not seen, who was not heard,
Yeah.
or who was conditioned by fear.
Yeah,
100%.
they didn't get it, right? Let me because of all the other narratives,
Yep.
right? Maybe you have unbalanced parents. Maybe they are disliking each other. Maybe it's all these scenarios around kids that we keep forgetting. The kid still has to grow up. The kid still has to be taught. The kid still has to learn the fundamentals and the basics, right? And what does that look like for your child, right? If you don't teach the child fundamentals and basics before they hit the school, you're saying that the kid should struggle.
That's what.
That's clearly what you're saying. You're saying that your child should, in some ways, get bullied. You're asking for things because they're not prepared to verbally defend themselves properly, right? If I can do math, if I can read, I can verbally express myself and defend myself with words. The
Words.
more words you give a child, the more understanding
Gotcha.
they'll have, because the adult will be communicating and the kid has words on the level of the adult. They will then know how to communicate with the adult properly.
Gotcha.
When we send a kid, or um, when we decide that kids should shut up and sit down, when we decide that just because you let me touch your hair, that bullshit. Let me touch your hair.
Totally. I
Yes.
can't stand
You know
that.
what I
I'm like,
mean? Like when you decide that, these are all things that black kids, all kind of kids, have to deal with these unnecessary pressures because they might not have the vocabulary. The studies show there was a study done in Australia about literacy, right? And they tested housing and homes, and the low income homes only average like 30,000. There's a word shortage in America in these kids. That's astounding. Then they come out, just think about this. When they came out and said education was horrible, they had their highest graduation rate under Obama in American history from education. You
What?
see, yeah, they had the highest graduation rate in American history was under President Obama. So when we decided that we were going to do these things, right? What did we do? We were taking the narrative away from the children. What are we doing now? We're cutting Medicaid. We're taking the narrative from the children. We're not protecting the children. So
Mm,
what does that mean? What is the psyche where we decide that we want to have children, but we're taking the 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 health and the medication and the things away from children.
mhm,
So now all these children that you put on these pills and drugs, you're gonna cut them, and now you got addiction. Like these are some of the most evil things that is happening to our children today. Number two way for a child to die is shot. So I had to come with this apparel and these messages just to get people to think.
think outside the box.
Good.
You see,
Yeah.
encourage me. I'm young. When this the studies show the best way to raise a child is encouragement. Like it's just
100%.
so it's just not for me. It's just not the process that when you talk about greed, things like that comes again every time we like you were saying when you see that our children are at stake. So for me, it's Emmy Apparel, and I'm bringing it right, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to get it to the mainstream. Then I'm gonna put it on uniforms. Like I'm just gonna keep bringing it right until it's to the scale of where it is, and then guess what? Now we got kids across the country talking about encouragement.
Yep.
And
Beautiful.
so then as it's spreading into the children and the athletes, because I got two athletes, I got some athletes in college. So as it continues to spread, now the messages is across the abroad. And what happens? This always happens. Years ago, I did an experiment with our apparel. I just went and got the kids nobody want.
Mm.
Y'all throwing these kids away. I just went and got them. I was averaging 200 boys.
Wow, holy shoot.
I was averaging 200 boys. I'll go get the kids nobody want. Right? Here's the narrative. When I was in Oakland County,
Oh,
people would bring me their kid. When I come to Wayne County to work with these black boys, people started acting funny, and then people started saying things like that. You're doing a great job, Cal. Oh, your kid don't need this? You know what I mean?
yeah.
You're doing a great job. Like we got opioids, crack, meth, vapes, alcohol, heroin. I just lost one of my former basketball players. Died. OD. Right? Had beat the.
I mean, that's it. I just turned 45 yesterday. Shout out to me because I'm 45.
Happy birthday.
I'm just saying.
Congrats.
Um, no, but and the night before I found out the one of my best friends from junior high passed away. She's found unresponsive. I do think that we do have a responsibility to embody love and to embody
Yeah.
kindness. And I think we make an impact through not judging these perceived boys that nobody wants, but rather being willing to get in the trenches and see them. I just did a post earlier today. I can't tell you how many people have no problem trying to have me tell them what's wrong with them. Oh, label me this. Oh, my past did this. Oh, I went through this trauma. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull out, and this was my skill set in corporate America, which is why I was a successful leader. I'm going to focus on the qualities that you bring to the table, i.e., I look at Calvin, who's willing to make music, to make a video, to make apparel. I'm going to look at the gifts that you bring to the table rather than focus on these perceived limitations or inadequacies. And in doing that, those people start to believe in themselves and they want to do better. But if I'm so focused on nope, yeah, then of course they're not going to want to do better. They see themselves as nothing or not worthy of the effort.
So
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up too, babe, because I sent you a video. It was on Instagram or whatever, right? So it was this artist that he's in New York, and he sits down with people, right? So he'll sit down across from you, like not even staring at you, but have the person that he's drawing face the opposite way and describe themselves, right? So in this video, he's talking to this African American lady and then this Caucasian lady, and they're describing like their features and things of that nature. One of the ladies is like, I have like droopy eyes, bloodshot, things of that nature, a little bit of a crooked nose. So they're describing that about themselves. The artist is drawing everything that they're telling them. Then after that he's done with them, he switches places. So he goes and talks to the other person, and then they describe the other person that he just did. And it was interesting because you got to see the comparison of how people thought about themselves compared to what somebody else saw about the other person. And it was super, super cool. It's like a 5-minute video or whatever it is. But it was so dope because you got to see the person that was talking about themselves. They were talking just kind of like just reckless about themselves. It wasn't the most nicest thing because they're just saying, this is what I perceive myself as. When the other person saw it, they saw it totally different. And it was super cool because, it was awesome to kind of compare the pictures of how they thought about themselves to what the other person thought about themselves. And the other one was like, oh, she has like this bright smile, where the lady had said like she has like droopy eyes, and like the other lady, it was just so interesting to see the comparisons. And I thought it was cool just how we perceive ourselves as like, this is how I feel about myself, and then how people also perceive us as well too.
But to what Calvin was saying, and this is why the listening audience, I totally agree with Calvin. I encourage you to unplug, or at least be very particular about what it is you're listening to. Are you feeding yourself life, or are you feeding yourself death? And if it's anything outside of educating you, causing you to have a different perspective or connection, then it's probably bringing you death. But the narrative is like our brain thinks negatively. It just does. And so we feed this negativity unless we purposefully surround ourselves with individuals such as the 4 of us on this panel and many others, Calvin's wife, I'm sure Alexander's partner, who are choosing to see the choosing, going back to what Calvin said, making a choice to love rather than to lean into that negative energy that has been so pervasive for so long within the psyche.
It makes me think of the idea that, love is a choice, because love is when you're conscious, when you're aware, when you're deliberately acting in your own authenticity, whereas maybe the other stuff, the fear and the hate and all that, comes from like these unconscious places. Like Jesus said on the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Meaning like they're just acting unconsciously. They're being zombies or something like that. And, all that.
I just got to shout out anybody who names themselves Meat Sweat.
No.
Meat Sweat.
My book.
To be fair, that's my cousin Junior. That's
I know
Junior.
it is. And I can't say because I don't know. I mean, people be getting sweaty balls, so I get it.
Love you, Junior. Yo, I appreciate you, cuz that's so cool that he's on here. That's like
no, but anyway, seriously, you're right about authenticity, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Calvin. But my understanding of authenticity at this point in time is, right, allowing the present moment to unfold without limiting it based on fear of being rejected. And what I mean by that is me talking about sweaty balls, right? I mean, somebody might be like, whoa, but that came up and I didn't filter it. And when we can show up that way, that I believe is co-creating with creation in connection with other people.
So sure. Like, I mean,
I was like,
I
I don't
mean,
know about that.
yeah, I mean, you gotta remember, you gotta remember with, like you said about authenticity, it starts with yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't be authentic about who you are, the mirror will tell you 1,000 stories only if you believe the one that you're supposed to,
Mm.
right? And so you need to
That's
you need
crazy.
to understand that it is in those places, right? Because I'm on with my therapist. My therapist, I decided to get a therapist, so he wants to talk,
Shout
and
out
I'm
to you
telling,
for that.
right? I'm telling him I'm dumping, right? I'm dumping all of this stuff right in your lap. You just got to take it, right? And so he comes on, and we're having a conversation, and he was like, "Dude," he said, "you are just so cut and dry. Like you are right. You are There's no in between with you. You either hot or you cold, right?" This is what he's saying.
Correct.
And I say, well, I if I didn't have if I had more time, I would sit here and contradict you, but I'm not. I'm just saying that I came here to dump. So let me give you this information about me so I can clear it, because I got 40 years of stories and things that I just decided to get a therapist to share with you, right?
Mm.
Mm.
So today we started off the conversation. He wanted to go deep. Well, when the conversation was over with, he's on the other end talking, and he was like, "Dude, you got some homework. Like you do this to me every time." And I said, I'm not doing this to you." He was like, "You are not ADD, right?
Yeah.
You don't have none of those symptoms. If I'd have thought you was ADHD, I would have been said it." He said, "You absolutely smart. You need to understand that." I say, "Well, you're smart too, right?" Right. And so my point to that is you're not gonna have it's not gonna be a one-way side of joy with me.
Yeah.
No.
You understand?
Yeah.
Like joy, if you in my vicinity, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna have conversation,
Correct. Correct.
you're gonna get to know me, you're going to hug,
Oh.
right? These are things that, right, requires your favorite word, and that comes from self-love. So before you could really put this thing on somebody else authentically, you have to authentically love yourself. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
why the therapist was struggling, right? Because like I'm strong, and he's surprised by me being strong, and I'm just explaining to him I am only dumping this information, and I'm glad that you're here and you accept it. I'm this many,
Mm.
what, I'm 4 weeks, 4 sessions, 5 sessions in. I feel good. I appreciate you, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the whole nine. So I got plenty more to tell you. So just prepare yourself, because I got a lot of stories. I've been very, very active, but I've always been authentic.
100%.
Ooh.
That's why we
Ooh.
buy. I agree with
Yeah.
that. But let me ask you something, Cal. How did you, growing up in what some would say is challenging environment, right? That's perceived, learn to love yourself? Did you always love yourself? Like that to me is something we have to cultivate and curate.
Well, I grew up with some magical parents. Like
Mm.
Mm.
I had, my dad was a gospel pioneer with Motown. My mom used to help prostitutes.
Nice.
I got a lineage that will make your head spin. My great grandfather was the first pastor on television in Canada. My
What?
grandfather, my mother's father, my father's father built a church together. My father's a pastor. My father was a pastor. My brother Columbus is a pastor. I got uncles that are
What?
pastors. Like so, where the the seed has traveled, um, it's long and far. So yeah, I'm just one of what's coming behind me. Who's going to recognize it?
Yeah.
I'm starting to recognize it even more in my kids,
Hmm.
right? But
Mm.
will they act on it? They might not. But my grandson might, right? So the object for me to really just understand that this is who I am. And I think when people decide to love themselves, for me, when my mother and father divorced, I struggled.
Got you. As anybody would.
I struggled. I chased after my dad. I got in trouble for going with my father. I'm going with my dad, right? And I go out the back door, jump in the car with my father. Eventually, that subsided, and I was able to go with my dad. Um, and me coming from a big family, right? And me coming from a certain neighborhood, all the men in my neighborhood worked. Majority of the men in my neighborhood were married, um, and they always poured into us as youth. Like I wasn't. The wrestler Bobo Brazil lived on our block,
What?
so
Did you
yeah,
say the wrestler?
Wrestler.
yeah.
Oh my god, I love the way you said that. Listen, I mean,
It's good stuff. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yep. So I grew up with men
Hmm.
who, right? And so then when I became an athlete, like when I moved into right across 8 Mile on into Rural Oak Township, I got lifetime friends. Like we did
Mm.
everything normal. We didn't have, I had maybe 3 incidents of racism in my life. And I've dated every kind of girl you can imagine. And there was no judgment. My mom,
Mm.
yeah, my brothers and sisters, it's 8 boys, 2 girls. The original seven, the first seven, my mom and dad had 5 boys and 2 girls. We are all active people,
Yeah.
right? My sister's husband is a pastor. They got a church. Like we are active people helping. My sister helped people with alcoholism and things like that.
Mm.
Do
You know
you
what I mean?
think,
I don't know.
with just 3 minutes to go, do you think that part of like being in service to others is how you show up with a joyful heart, like in your everyday life challenges? Because you and I both know, you said, but having a nonprofit can be really challenging.
Mm.
Even being a business owner, as such as myself, right? And Alexander has created a podcast. We face difficulties in pursuing our passion, but for me it always does come back to I'm service orientated, and those difficulties are a drop in the bucket to the way in which I'm able to show up in love and service to other people as a result of that.
So, um, uh, I'll say this, right? I'll say I was guided and discovered through other men and people that brought out the things that was in my DNA code from my parents.
Yeah.
Service is tough because let's put it this way, when you create an idea and I don't fund it, I can take your idea, fund it, and put all the people in place, and now your idea became my idea.
Ooh.
Nasty.
Ooh.
You understand how
Yeah.
that? So there's a book called Decolonizing Wealth. It's a powerful book. You should read it. It really is a powerful book because it explains to you about feeling philanthropy, the world, and the people. Right? And I'm telling you from my experience, I've met some amazing people, and but I've seen a great deal of amount of gatekeeping and
Mm,
denial
Oh,
mhm.
100%.
and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of that when they know, right? My solution, my solution is my solution. My vision is my vision, right? It's
Yep.
up to me to paint it. How I paint it, who gets to see it,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, this it's my vision, right? But because I'm a man in this field, literally, because I'm a man, and because I got this swag and confidence,
As you should.
right? Because I have the vision, the words, the deeds, the actions, the the outcomes from these concepts and ideas, because we've helped this many youth and families and did the thing, right? The vultures are sitting and waiting for me to fail.
Mm.
When my mentoring program was certified by the University of Michigan, right? She told me that, Calvin, you know that this program isn't just for black kids. I said I never had the vision of division. I don't know where you get that from, right?
It's
Where
so
I
true.
you don't know me, so let me introduce you to myself. I don't do that, right?
Mhm.
But the truth of the matter is, it's an illness in this country, and it's on our children. And Emmy Apparel, my whole movement
Yeah.
is here to uplift people, the athleisure, the young adult,
Mm.
the people who can see that this makes them feel a certain way,
Correct.
right? My demographic is 12 to 24, but I see a lot of 40 and 50-year-olds buying our product
Nice.
because of that.
Ooh.
So you do got adult size clothing.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Excellent. I'll check it out and maybe get one.
yeah.
Um, well,
Thank
we
you.
do have to wrap this up, but I would first
Cool.
off, Calvin,
Thank
as
you.
always, I mean,
Thank you.
you're thoughtful and you're informed, and you do have this great capacity for love and wrapping all people up and
Well, thank
inspiring
you.
them. So for that, I love you so very, very much. And I truly am honored to have you here. And you're welcome to join us again anytime you want.
Please.
Um,
Please.
with I would just say for me, again, just showing up and hopefully inspiring one other individual to believe in themselves is truly one of the greatest joys I've ever had. You three want to just share real quickly, because we're past time,
Mhm.
what one thing is that brings you just immense joy?
I mean, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. That's
You
you,
go
Colin.
ahead, man.
I mean, I was gonna say just. I mean, my thing is just seeing people's face light up when they see something that like I partake in. This weekend, I already know that I'm going to be bringing a lot of joy and cheer and happiness from just being myself and seeing friends that it's almost like pen pals from different states or whatever that are
Mm.
meeting up at a convention, and we're just gonna just be total nerds and just enjoy each other's companies and live in the presence of just people that bring us a sense of joy. That's my take.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say creating something, creating it from my authenticity and from my heart, and sharing it.
I love
You
that.
know, that's way to get some joy.
You know what it is for me? The biggest joy I'm gonna have, right? Really is because I have so many of them.
Yeah.
My grandsons, my
Mm.
grandchildren, my children. I have so many joys, right? But the biggest joy I'm gonna have, and you can put this on your calendar or on your wall,
I will.
when you see a national commercial for Emmy Apparel, you can call me.
I
I will
get your
be
cell
in
phone
tears.
number.
Yes, yes,
I will be in
Do
tears
it.
because
yeah.
I know what God has given me just in the brand alone
Mm.
shifts the culture.
Mm, I love that. For the listening audience, it's EMIY.apparel.com if you're interested in checking out the apparel.
Yes,
There's
sir.
also www.emmyworld.com. Calvin Mann is the name of this amazing gentleman. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank
We
you
will
so
catch
much,
you
Melvin.
guys next
And
week.
thank
for
you,
another
Alex.
episode of
Yeah. Thank
The
you.
Brightside Chronicles.